Please give it up for Ryan Ike.
Hello. Playtopia, what's going on? I normally don't do this kind of thing. I don't like taking selfies of myself, but can I take a picture with you folks? I'm just really excited to be here. Hello, everybody. The angle's weird. Now maybe my grandma will believe that I have a real job. I'm so stoked about this. It's my first time at Playtopia. It's my first time in South Africa. I'm really excited to be here. As was mentioned, my name is Ryan Ike. I'm a composer, and my talk is called Don't, How Not to Work in Game Audio. So a little bit about me. I'm a composer primarily for indie games. I've been doing this for a little over 12 years. I'm clearly really good at graphic design. There's no need to analyze the arrangement of the images on the screen. I did a good job, and you like it. I want to point out really quickly before I get started that this talk is geared towards game audio folks, but if you are in a different discipline, if you're a writer or a programmer or an artist or any kind of like freelance creative trying to make it in games or trying to further a career you have in games, 95% of everything I'm going to say applies to you as well. This is a really wide-ranging talk. In a few points, I will talk about game audio specific stuff, but this is actually much more cross-disciplinary. So the way this talk works is I'm going to be discussing various like kind of pitfalls and misconceptions about working in games, all of which are things that I thought or I did. This talk could basically just be called Don't Be Stupid Like Ryan, and that would be satisfactory. So we're just going to go through different things and kind of debunk some stuff. So the first big one is that you don't have to freak out about your gear. This is the thing I hear from audio pros all the time. They'll reach out to me. They're like, I'm trying to get started. What do I need to get going? Like, what's the professional bar? You know, like, I have this computer. Should I have this one? Should I have this software? Should I have this speaker set up? Should I have these tools? And I want to debunk this by just doing a little exercise with you folks. Take a look at this piece of furniture. Don't ignore the microwave, but the piece of furniture under the microwave. I want you all to get in your heads the word for what this is called. What would you call this thing? Think about it. Got it? If you said an audio professional's workstation, you're correct. This was the exact microwave cart that was my desk for the first 5 years of my career. I had one of those like plastic-ass white MacBooks. Anybody remember those? Where like if you put a thumbprint on it, it was there to the rest of time. It was like the Rosetta Stone. If I had spaghetti and I breathed near this thing, it would just turn orange and stay that way. I had $5, like wired headphones from Amazon. I had an old clunky keyboard that I just kind of had with me when I moved to California. The speakers were a lie. I didn't have speakers. I had to burn all of my mixes that I was working on onto a CD, which makes me feel 75,000 years old to say here. But when I was trying to start out, we had circles with music on them, and I would play my mixes in my wife's computer, on my TV, through my game console, in my car, anywhere else that had speakers, because I didn't know what the fuck anything sounded like because my headphones were so bad. I used only the built-in plugins and instruments that came with my cheap, like student-priced music software. And it was on this setup that I wrote the music for a game called Gunpoint, which is an indie game where you play this noir kind of future detective who has all these gadgets and stuff in his trench coat, and you solve these puzzles by breaking into these secure installations and kind of stealing sensitive data and just kind of being a cool spy. And this game went on to be #1 on Steam for a while. It got nominated for a couple of BAFTAs. It did really well. I'm very grateful that it did really well. I'm not saying that to brag, and I'm not trying to be one of those guys who's like, back in my day, we wrote the Crash Bandicoot soundtrack on a solar power calculator watch or whatever, so you should be fine with what you have. I'm trying to say that if you have a nice setup now, or if you are planning to make some upgrades, get some new tools, new software, that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with doing that. What I am saying is that you don't need to have that stuff to get started. So many people I've talked to are like, well, I can't start, or I can't go further in my career until I hit, and then whatever the bar is. This level of computer, this level of software, whatever. But people have written incredible soundtracks on a fraction of that. If you have a laptop that kind of works and has some software on it that kind of is okay, and you have a phone that can record, or you have the crappy microphone built into the webcam, that is literally enough. People have written incredible game soundtracks that are published on that level or less. So don't let it stop you, is my point. For a point of reference, this is what my setup looks like now. I didn't clean it or anything. It was just a candid shot. Please don't look at my mouse pad. I did replace it. Everyone leave me alone about the mouse pad. But this is what it looks like now. I'm pretty happy with it, but there are people who have much more advanced setups than mine with like hardware racks of instruments and stuff, and there are people making music in the industry right now who have pretty much just the kind of laptop and like MIDI keyboard scenario. So it is what works for you. It is not about finding a bar of technology that you get to where you feel adequate enough to start. I see some of your eyes drifting to the upper right portion of this image, so fine, let's talk about it. A friend of mine sent me this, and I'm not doing a bit. It was shrink wrapped in like plastic, so it came in a flat square. And when I opened this thing, it just slowly inflated to this shape over about 2 minutes, and it was wet. And I don't know with what. It evaporated eventually. I pray it was water every single day of my life. I call him Gorefeld, and I hate him. I hate looking at him. But it was a gift from a friend, so like, what am I going to do? Throw it away? I'm not a monster, though I am haunted by a monster every day of my working life, and it's this. Anyway, moving on. My point is that if you push the technology and the software and the tools you have as far as you can right now, it makes you a better creative professional. It makes you somebody who makes more interesting, innovative choices because you're trying to kind of push up against a ceiling. Some of the best work in video games has been made that way. All the like famous like old school melodies that we love, like the old school Mario and Zelda melodies, those were made because the limitations of the NES meant they couldn't do a lush like orchestral thing. They had to come up with a really like catchy melody, and it worked and it's still sustained today. It also means that if you push the stuff you have as far as you can before you upgrade, you're going to make better choices about what you need because you're going to have an idea. You're like, well, I literally pushed this as far as I possibly can. I do need a new sound font. I do need new synthesizers, whatever. A fun hidden benefit of this is it actually helps you network when you are trying to make your current setup go as far as it can before you upgrade it. It often means that you'll reach out to somebody. Maybe you know a musician who can record a part for you because you don't have good trombone samples or whatever. Maybe you reach out to other professionals in your space and you're like, hey, this is what I have. Any tips on solving this problem with what I'm working with? And it often means that you meet people this way and you make friends this way, so that's a nice side benefit. And audio people, remember how this is to talk about all my own failures and mistakes, me especially, are guilty of buying like 100 million plugins on like a Black Friday sale and then being like, what the fuck? I don't know how to use these. What's a degalvanizer? Is that real? That doesn't feel real. This helps you eliminate that part where it's just like, I know what I need, and then if I'm making purchasing decisions, I know that I'm going to use this stuff. So moving on to my next point, and this was a big whoopsie on my part when I was starting out, the idea that you need to network a certain way. You don't need to network like a jerk. And what I mean when I say that is, I'm just going to give you an example.
You see that business card? Cheap. Strathmore stock. 60 pound. Holds a crease. Can you tear it? Absolutely. Looks like crap? It is crap. It's the same size of every other business card in my hand that you guys just gave me. These aren't even your cards. That card looks like crap too. One color. Nothing special about it. Let me see. What's it say on it? Name of the company in Atlanta. It's an agency. This guy's a CSO, Chief Strategic Officer. Wow, I'm impressed. So what? He's an officer. I know companies that are worth $10,000 a year, and the guy's a CEO. I will never make a criticism if I don't have a resolution. You see that card? This is the most impressive business card I've ever seen. It's mine. It took me 25 years to design this. This card is expensive. It's about $4 a card because of the stock. It doesn't fit in a Rolodex because it doesn't belong in a Rolodex.
So I don't know who this guy is, but we can all agree that sucks, right? Whatever is going on there, that sucks. And I'm not saying I was this bad, but when I started out in games, I was kind of panicking. I thought you had to be really pushy and aggressive in the way that you met people. You had to really try to get your business card into their hands. You had to really kind of try to be like, very forward about getting them to hire you. And I sucked at it, and I hated it. So no benefit whatsoever, but it was what I thought you had to do. And I want to tell you the story about the time when this kind of clicked for me, when I figured out how to do it the right way. This friendly-looking fellow is Jonaman Nordhagen. He has the most Scandinavian name I've ever heard in my life. He is a veteran game dev. He's worked on stuff like BioShock 2. He made an indie game called Gone Home that did very well. And he's just genuinely really nice. I found out one year on social media that he was going to be coming out to PAX West, which is a big convention in Seattle where I live. And I was like, I really like this dude. I'd really love to work with him or even just meet him, but he doesn't know who I am. Why would he do that? And so I did something terrifying, and I emailed him. And I didn't say any of that. And I was like, hi, would you like to hang out? Would you like to get coffee? I really like your work. And for some reason, he said yes, which, tip number one, that happens way more often than it doesn't. If you just reach out to the person who's going to be at the thing you're at, they're either, I'm sorry, I'm busy, but let's do something later, or they actually say yes. It happens way more often than you think, even if they don't know you. And this time, instead of being like, you need to hire me right now or I'll die, I was like, let's be What if I tried the non-sweaty version of this and I just got to know him? So I just asked him, like, what are you playing right now? What's your game design philosophy? Like, what are you into? He started asking me stuff about composition, and I never at one point brought up, like, I would love to work with you, you should hire me. And a couple months after hanging out like that, he reached out and asked if I wanted to do the music for a trailer for a game called Where the Water Tastes Like Wine, which is a game about traveling around, kind of a fantasy version of Great Depression era America, and meeting all these people from all these different cultures, kind of trying to find the American dream and like sharing stories and stuff. Eventually doing the music for that trailer turned into doing the music for the entire project. It's still one of my favorite things I've ever gotten to work on in my career. I met so many cool musicians and artists from all these different backgrounds to kind of help me put the soundtrack together and make sure I got the cultural kind of exchange of everything as correct as I could. And it was a really great experience that I got to have because I focused not on getting hired, but on the good part, which is getting to know somebody. So I guess my point here is that I understand that that's a difficult thing. Getting to know people is scary. I'm scared every time. Do you all think that being on a stage in front of a bunch of strangers in a continent I've never been to is my default state? Like, I should be at home right now with a bag of Doritos over my head like a Lucha Libre mask. Like, that is the baseline for me. This is terrifying. But I'm still here because this is a skill. Learning how to talk to people and how to meet new people is genuinely a skill like anything else. You can practice it. You can get better. If you talk to me later at the convention and you see the fear in my eyes, and my eyes are very easy to see, you will know that it is genuine. But I am genuinely also excited to be here. So my point is that you don't need to be the pushy weirdo that I was when I started out, and thank God I don't have to either. Nobody wants to work with people like that. In the game industry, people like to work with people they know or have met, and people that they like and think would be a good working relationship and that they trust. I have literally gotten jobs where I've been talking to a developer, and also they've been talking to a much more famous, much more skilled, like much better composer than me, but that person was talking to them through email, and I was talking to them in person, and I'm the one who ended up getting the job because of that. So it is a thing that genuinely happens. You should have a card, you should have an easy place for people to find your work, but mainly, you just want to make friends. Again, I know that's easier said than done, but if you just show up like you're all doing right now and just be authentic, it tends to work out pretty well. So my next point, this is one of the things I end up screaming, oh, I forgot about this slide, pardon me. I don't have a lightning round space, so I'm just gonna kind of do it here. I have other smaller networking tips that don't fit anywhere else, so we're just gonna go. One thing I recommend is standing out, but in small little ways. I've seen a lot of you already doing this here at Playtopia, and it rules. Some people have really cool hair, some people have really cool fashion sense, but even just little tiny stuff like when I invite somebody out at a convention of like, hey, I want to meet this person, the default thing is coffee. At least in the US, that's what we do. Is like, do you want to get out, go for coffee? Everybody likes coffee, everybody likes tea, and there's nothing wrong with that. But a thing I started doing is being like, Googling the area and being like, do you want to go to this Vietnamese bakery up the street that I just looked up, like, and get a pastry? Do you want to go to this place near the convention that does like egg yolk ice cream or whatever? And people are always like, yeah, I thought ice cream already had eggs in it. Hell yeah, let's roll. Doing something a little bit different that is not the expected thing is my point. Watch people's feet, not in a pervert way, in a normal, cool way. If you're standing in a group of people at a convention and you notice somebody's feetsies are kind of like twisting off to the side, that's always a symbol that like they're kind of ready to go. Doesn't mean anything mean about you, it's just like maybe they want to lay down, maybe they're late for a thing. If you notice that and you're like, well, anyway, I gotta wrap it up, I've got this other thing, it was so nice to meet you, like people, the gratitude that floods over people's faces, like they love that. People remember that stuff. A lot of these tips are just little tiny things that you can do to like be of service at a convention. Speaking of being of service, volunteering at a conference. This is a really, really huge one. Most big conventions and game industry conferences, I don't know if Playtopia is the case, because I'm very new here, apologies, but like PAX in Seattle, where I'm from, GDC in San Francisco, Gamescom, all have programs where you can volunteer to work there, helping people usher in and out of talks, doing backstage stuff, and then get in for free. It obviates a huge part of the financial cost of going to these things, but also it's like one of the best kept secrets of networking in video games. If you do one of these, you make friends with all the other volunteers, all of which are also game devs who are just kind of trying to get to this thing. People have formed entire studios out of people they met at these volunteering institutions. People have made lifelong friends and colleagues at these things. Like, it's a really good way to get into a conference for a lot cheaper and also just supercharge your networking. Connect people to each other. This is another big one. This is another service thing. We're all here to like meet people and see who we can meet for us, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you are talking to somebody and you think of someone else you met who they might be interested in meeting, put them together. That's another thing that people really remember and really appreciate. So like, I'm talking to somebody and they're talking about trying to get the skybox right in their new game or whatever. I can be like, oh, I just met this woman who's an environmental artist. You two might get along. You might want to talk to each other and like bring them together, that kind of thing. People really appreciate that stuff. They remember it. This one's really dorky. I might be burning my whole ass on stage because this is the thing that I do, but practice your awkwardness ahead of time. And by that, I mean just think of if you're scared of talking to new people like me, think of the dumbest thing you could say. And for me, the bar is in hell. Think of the dumbest thing you could say and just say it out loud alone where no one can hear you before you get there. I met years and years ago, like one of the top audio people at Xbox. His name was like Mike Johnson, we'll say, because I don't remember. And he was like, hey, nice to meet you, I'm Mike Johnson. And I went, yeah. Ryan, so now I practice this shit ahead of time. When I'm scared to meet somebody, I'm like, okay, what if I talk about Spider-Man too much? I'm always talking about Spider-Man. What if I don't talk about Spider-Man enough? And I just do that in my bathroom, and it helps me realize, like, it won't be so bad. Maybe they like Mysterio. Maybe they're into it. And I'm probably not going to say it anyway because I got it out of my system. Final micro point here is that networking is a long game. Most of you are going to go to conventions and go to things where you're not going to leave with work. That's normal. It's important to come and be kind of a fixture and keep coming back, but it's not about leaving an event like this with a job in hand. It's about returning over and over until those opportunities start to present themselves. So my next point is one I'm pretty famous in my circles for screaming about, which is work-life balance. And I'm here to say that you don't have to have the work-life balance of a serial killer. And what do I mean by that? I mean that during the day, you're at work, and then at night, you're kind of still at work, if you know what I'm saying. So I want to talk about a website I hate more than anything. Anybody familiar with Fiverr? Raise your hands. A couple of people, yeah. No offense to anybody if you have used this website or if you have put your services up on here. I'm not after you. I don't like them. Like, you're all fine. But if you're not familiar with Fiverr, it's a place where people can offer services and people can kind of bid on what they want to pay for them. And a lot of creatives will be like, I can write you an album. I can make you a painting. I can score your film on here. And the reason I dislike them is because they really incentivize creative people to put their services up for the least amount of money possible, like an unreasonable, unlivable amount. Like, I'll score your entire film for $80. That's a year plus of work for 80 US dollars. I've seen that on there before. This is an ad campaign they ran a couple years ago that I'm clearly still pissed off about because I'm bringing it up again. Just want to read it for you. You eat coffee for lunch. You follow through on your follow through. Sleep deprivation is your drug of choice. You might be a doer. And it's like, doer of what? This sounds like what happens to the cosmic horror protagonist right after they find the weird thing in the cave. Like, I just got the gem of Antalya and it won't let me stop, you know? It sounds like that. Secondly, I am not body shaming the model in this ad at all, but they've clearly done her makeup and done the lighting in a way where they want her, I think, to look like ambitious and like hungry is kind of what they're going for. They made her look like she's haunted. I don't think they meant to, but that's what happened. She looks like she hasn't slept in 6 weeks because the ghost of a samurai warrior lives in her bedroom and won't let her go to sleep until she helps him depose the shogun who destroyed his village. It's not a healthy depiction of a creative professional who's living a balanced life. And I'm big on trying to have that free time and have that space for yourself. I should have been practicing this talk a lot more, probably late into the evening before I flew out here from Seattle. Do you want to know what I was doing instead? Obviously, I'm lying. I don't play Overwatch anymore. I love myself now. If I wanted to be in an environment where kids I barely know could emotionally devastate me, I'd just start teaching piano lessons again. But my point is that Patrick Stewart smokes weed and plays with dogs every day, and he hasn't aged in like 30 years. So protect your free time. You want the times when you're crunching and working super late nights and not seeing your family to be as rare as possible. If that feels like the norm for you, I urge you to try to change that mindset and start putting up boundaries in the future. I know it's not always possible. I understand that. But as much as you can move your life in that direction and be comfortable telling future clients like, hey, I'm not available on weekends, I'm not available after hours, I take holidays, whatever it is, that stuff is very important. If you are the kind of person like me who can't just do this for yourself because it's good for you, do it because it's good for everybody. When you take time off, you have more space for imagination. You have more space to be intuitive. You have more resources internally to make good stuff, so your work gets better, which means your clients get better stuff from you, so they're happier. It means that your players get better work out of you in the final product, so they're happier. And we forget sometimes that we kind of train our clients a little bit on what is acceptable. Most people who want you to overwork aren't like trying to get you. It's just like, this is how we do things at the studio. And if you're brave enough to be like, no, these are my boundaries. I don't really work late. Like I'll put in a lot of hard work, but I'm not here sometimes. That trains a lot of clients to be like, oh yeah, That is normal, and I'm still getting great stuff from them, which means when they hire people in the future, those people benefit. You're literally making the entire industry better when you do this. I'm big on this too. Your free time does not have to be like special or important. A lot of creatives suffer from this, where they're like, well, I gotta build an instrument from scratch, right? When I'm not at work, I have to write my novel, I have to go base jumping, and it's like, your free time can be garbage. You can just watch reality TV. If you want to put like Master of Puppets by Metallica and K-pop Demon Hunters on at the same time and see if they line up, and number one, they do, and number two, that's perfectly fine. If it recharges you, that's the thing that matters. Creative industries need more people to kind of stand up and be brave about this. This is how we change this kind of thing. So I urge you to kind of have that courage in your own space if you are at all possible of doing so. Related point, you don't have to lowball yourself. Meaning, when it comes to charging, when it comes to picking your rate, I feel like almost every creative freelance professional, whether you're an audio, artist, programmer, whatever, we all have this one thing in common, which is that we're all just kind of wandering around doing this.
Gotta figure out how to make money on this. I really want to.
And we don't know what to charge. And unfortunately, this is not the part of the talk where I tell you what to charge, because you might have a different discipline than me. You might be offering more or different work than me. You might have different needs than me. There's all kinds of different reasons why I can't just go, say this number. But what I can do is help you figure out how to charge an appropriate amount for you. And that way of figuring that out is when it comes to the point in a conversation with a potential client where you're going to say your rate, where you're working things out and you're like, this is what I cost. You should ask yourself, does my tummy hurt? Because if your tummy hurts, that's probably a good sign that you're doing the right thing. If you just go, I think they'll pay this. I can barely get by on that. I can't afford rent or food or anything, but they'll pay this number, and you say that, tummy probably doesn't hurt as much. If you're like, like if you ask for enough where it's like, I will be not only able to meet my needs, but comfortable, that's that feeling that you get inside. I still get this every time, even though I know what I should kind of cost by now, I still feel this way. There are three things that happen when you quote your rate to a potential client. They say yes right away. They get mad at you or they ghost you. That's the one everyone's scared of. Or somewhere in the middle, they negotiate. This middle thing is what we want to happen. If they say yes right away, that's awesome. That's a win. But it's also a point where you should go, okay, I should ask for more next time. Because they may have been comfortable going a little higher, and then you get more resources, you do better work, they get better work. Everyone still wins. If they ghost you, which is the thing we're all scared of, good. And I know that might sound controversial, but if a client ghosts you, they were going to be a nightmare to work with. I have seen it 100,000 times. Every time somebody I know, or me in the past, tracks down a client who disappears and goes, okay, actually, I will come way down. I just really want to work on this. And they say, yeah. They ask for unreasonable amounts of work on impossible timelines. They ask for 1 billion revisions. They're always bothering you every hour of the day. They're not grateful, and they don't pay you anything. So like literally when that happens, it feels like you lost something. You just dodged a bullet. And it just means you have that space open to work with somebody awesome in the future. The negotiation spot in the middle where you go, this is what I can live on. This is what would be kind of comfortable. And like, this would be like really nice. Like not exorbitant, but like, man, this would be really cool. I could like travel and stuff. Ask for that one. That's tummy ache number. And then when they go, well, I can't quite do that, but you still have room to negotiate down to something that is comfortable instead of starting at, I already can't survive on this and let's go down from there. I am realizing too late that it kind of looks like Sonic the Hedgehog is pregnant in this image that I've chosen for this international talk that I'm doing for an audience for the first time. But that's fine. We don't need to talk about it. What we do need to talk about more often is money. And I mean, what do we make? How comfortable are we on that salary? My tinfoil hat thing, but also I'm right about it, I think, is that the forces in our industry and in other creative spaces that want us to be like, it's rude to talk about what you make, or it's taboo or something. Those are the forces that want us to not be comfortable saying so that we don't empower each other, so that we don't actually make enough so that they can make that money off of us instead. The more frequently you're comfortable being like, yeah, I make this, no one's gonna get mad at you. Your colleagues and friends are either gonna be like, oh, you made that on this project? I should ask for more next time. Or they're gonna go, oh, you only made this? I actually did a similar thing and I made this much, you should up it. It's just a way of empowering ourselves with each other, and something I encourage whenever possible. In general, creative fields are plagued with people who think art doesn't work anything, or doesn't cost anything, rather. They think that you like this, so you should do it for free. And then I'm gonna talk about the big elephant in the room, exposure. I know all of you have or will run into this. I'm sure we all agree that it's not great when someone's like, I can't pay you, but why don't you just do this for the exposure? When this blows up, it'll be really good for you. And we all know that that's bad. But there's like a little voice in the back of our head when it's like, but this is really cool. This does look really sweet. What if this blew up? Maybe I should just do it for this one. And I want to teach you all a mental exercise that I do. It's like a swapsy. When you hear the word exposure from a client, you're going to train your brain to flip it and say this other word instead. Okay? And it's going to really help you be like, no, I should say no to this. So please repeat after me. Exposure equals Gorfeld. That's right, he's back. You didn't think he was coming back. That was world building earlier when I showed you this demon cat. So I want you to think about, imagine what this fucked up homunculus would like. Imagine the things that bring this being pleasure, which a word I don't feel comfortable even saying in relation to this. Think about things Gorfeld would like, and when you hear the word exposure, just swap it and replace it with that. Okay, I'm gonna give you a couple examples. It makes it much easier to say no. Well, we can't afford to pay you, but think what it'd be like to go to Discam and drink all the ear medication you can find. It's kind of easy to say no, right? Let's try another one. We don't have a budget per se, but what if you gave birth to dozens of live rats and every single one had a beautiful human face for some reason? Again, hard pass, I hope. Maybe some of you are, in a different situation, that's fine. For me, hard pass. Third one, you love what you do, right? Instead of money, what if I paid you in 9-volt batteries and weird-looking reptile teeth, which are your favorite foods probably? My point is that exposure's not good, your work is valuable, you are valuable, you deserve to be paid, and there are non-money options. If you work with a client, if you're earlier in your career and they're like, we don't have any money, that's fine, get a skill trade going. Maybe they can do something for you. Maybe they can design your next album art or your website. Maybe they have connections that would be great for you to be introduced to. It is okay to work for no money if that is the situation that you're in, but it is not okay to work for nothing. You should always be getting some kind of compensation because your work is valuable. Exposure is bad. And final thing, asking for a lot actually makes you look like a better choice. There are lots of situations where if you ask for the most money out of a group, it doesn't feel real, but you're going to be the one who gets picked sometimes because they go, well, that person asked for a lot, they must be really good. It literally happens all the time. I'm going to skip through this one really fast because we're running out of time. You don't need to obsess over your image, a thing I did very early in my career. And by that I mean, what awards am I winning? How prestigious is my game? How much social media following do I have? When I was new to this space, when I wasn't working in games yet, I felt inferior to people who were. And then when I was working in games, finally, I felt inferior to people who were working on popular games. When I was lucky enough to finally make something that did really well, I felt inferior to people who were making games that won awards. And when that finally happened to me, there's always some other thing, and it just wasn't healthy. Those things are great. Oftentimes, people who get those things deserve them. I'm not saying they don't, but they are not the only measure of success. And so if you can learn to kind of be your own judge of what's important to you and work on, learning from your own work and being your own approval kind of jury, that's what's going to really help you. A way that is good to help you deprogram this is to share your process. And by that I mean, don't just post work and put work out that is perfect and done, or as done as you can get it. Consider putting up that mix that isn't finished and just narrate it, or in the comments be like, yeah, I'm working on this problem right now. I'm trying to get the hair right on this character design I'm doing. People really respond to that. They find that really humanizing, and people really enjoy it, and it's a great way to kind of find that following on internet and public spaces. This composer in the background isn't Hans Zimmer, it could be anybody, but you don't need to be that famous person that you're probably thinking of right now, somebody that you look up to, somebody that maybe you idolize a little bit, that's fine. But a lot of people in creative spaces think, I need to be as good as them, I need to be like them. And you don't, because even when a client thinks that they want to knock off, they don't really. They want someone as good as this person, but they want somebody who sounds unique. And the thing about kind of imitating another creative is that you're always going to be less than some other knockoff. If you can emulate someone else can do it a little better than you, but nobody sounds more like you than you do. So please keep that in mind. This is another thing I was really guilty of early on. And then finally, the point that gets me yelled at the most on the internet, you don't need to pretend that luck isn't real. If somebody screams at me online, it's either because they think that I'm not actually this nearsighted and I'm just faking it for attention, or they're mad at me because I brought up the idea that luck is a real thing. So many people's stories about how they got started in games are bonkers and non-repeatable. It's always like, yeah, I pushed John Romero out of the way of a speeding bus, and now we're best friends, and he hires me for all his games. And it's like, do I have to try to kill John Romero with a bus? That feels dramatic. Two people who have the same background, the same skill set, network the same way, make all the right choices, will still have advantages and disadvantages over one another. Geography, are you part of a marginalized group? Did you have the same access to technology and education and healthcare and support network? There are all these things that make it difficult. And so you need to remember not to compare yourself to other people because you don't know what lucky breaks they had that you didn't. My final point here is just that all these things are ways that we put barriers on ourselves. This industry is hard enough, even when it's not a layoff-ridden hellhole like it is right now. And these are all just things that we put in our own way that make things difficult. And you're already all probably making great stuff, and you're going to make great stuff, and I'm really excited to see it. And so these are things we don't need to add to the pile of difficulties that are already in our way. So I want to thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here. If you would like to take a picture of the screen, you can reach out if you have any questions at all. If you see me at the show, ignore the fear. In my giant eyeballs, I promise I'm excited to talk to you, and I'd love to answer any questions you have. But yeah, thank you so much for having me, and have a good Playtopia.